Oh, okay. I guess it's going already. Okay. So day 2, and I gotta talk about something now. So I'm on my lunch break at work right now, and I guess the thing that felt like the most fitting thing to talk about this time, kind of also surrounding other stuff going on in life right now, is I guess generally the idea of having to meet people where they're at. And it's kind of the perspective I try to look at things from when it comes to people is, by and large, for the most part, where people are, the way that they act, the things that they do and don't do. In a lot of ways, you can kind of trace it back almost like a semi-deterministic line, almost, of like things that influence the person they are, between genetics, their upbringing, parental stuff. Most of this stuff is kind of, if people do stuff that pisses you off, stuff that like bothers you, it's like a lot of the times that's coming from them acting in ways that like they learned how to for what it felt like they had to do to some degree. Not to say that people can't just be shitty, or that you should tolerate things because they have an excuse for why they acted that way, but more in line with, if someone acts that way, part of what on your end I guess you can kind of do is just try to be better at figuring out that that's the way that someone's going to act, I guess. And it's also kind of coming back to giving people a chance sometimes, like you kind of want to see if you're reading a situation wrong, like is someone like deceiving you, or are y'all just having your wires crossed because y'all both just got some bullshit going on, some miscommunication. I've had a lot of relationships in my life where I was really pissed off at someone because I thought that they were just being like shitty, right? But it was more miscommunications than it was active shittiness, like me not understanding someone was saying it some sort of way, or me not understanding what someone meant by something, like thinking they had these big expectations of something that I was supposed to do, and I'm like, well, fuck you, you're not entitled to that. But they weren't actually trying to ask for something unreasonable, I just misunderstood what they meant. And things like that. Miscommunication can be such a huge part of relationships being shitty sometimes. But also, though, sometimes you're trying to give someone that benefit of the doubt that maybe you're just not understanding something, or maybe they're just in a particularly hard spot, but that they're kind of just going to be using whatever excuse they can to excuse it. Like if there isn't a reason, they'll invent one almost. And all of this, it's still like the same rule. People are still who they are. And really the best you can do is get better at screening it. There was a phrase I said to my friend about a situation I was in. I was dating someone for a bit, and things started on a really good note. I was really excited about this relationship because I hadn't really been dating anyone for like a year at that point. And not because I didn't have any potential options either. It was also just like no one was really fitting the bill of what I kind of had set the standards for myself on, I guess, right? So I didn't get into relationships that felt like that, but I had so basically the way I said it to my roommate, this is a person who was an old roommate of mine, not currently actively, but the way I said it to them was like, I found a candidate with a good resume, but I didn't wait on the background check. And that's honestly the best way I can describe it, because I got really excited really fast to have someone who basically of their own volition was kind of acting like they were focused on a lot of the same things as me. Were down to really lock in on stuff that I'm really passionate about, and honestly is probably a main thing that I need in a partner myself, someone who can lock in on some similar ideals. And without me bringing it up, us reconnecting, this person who I ended up dating, they were the one to mention that was something they cared about a lot. So that kind of got me immediately like, holy shit, this is exactly what I've been waiting for. Like, you're someone I find really attractive. You're someone who, at least now, seems to kind of, be in your own, like, growth journey a bit, learn some of your own hard lessons, because I've had to certainly learn a whole bunch of hard lessons myself. And, was caring about the same thing I was caring about. So, like, that was like, holy shit, that's exactly what I've been waiting on. And I'll just be 100. I've been lonely, dude. Like, this is another thing to also talk about in a different video, I think, is that, like, I definitely have, like, some avoidant tendencies myself. It's also, like, probably, like, it's kind of disorganized. It's both avoidant and anxious, but honestly, it feels like it's, like, for kind of good reason a lot of the times. A lot of people kind of just suck. And even though the point of this was also kind of to talk about, like, people just kind of are what they are, but we live in a society that kind of sucks. Almost everyone is kind of conditioned to play kind of weird, cutthroaty games and just be weird. And a lot of people having to grow up in those games of social situations and, like, two-facedness and stuff, they learn to act those ways themselves, because that's kind of like how you survive in that. Like, someone's trying to kill you and you're trying to be their friend, then the person who's going to kill you is probably going to kill you, Not that everything's that deep, but, everyone's traumatized, everyone's anxious, everyone's depressed, and if you're not, you're probably a psychopath or a sociopath or something like that, or just, like, spoiled. Yeah. Everybody's got different adaptations of ways that they learned how to respond to different kinds of threats in their life, navigate different dynamics, which things they find are more of a thing they need to prioritize, what they focus on in terms of getting their needs met, because, like, we all kind of have, like, the same relative needs, more or less, right? Like, we all need, like social, like, safety. We need to eat, we need to sleep, we need to pursue things that feel exciting to us and engaging. We need to have, like, a sense of freedom that we can kind of pursue the things we want to pursue. And kind of basically whenever you're having your, like, early growing up stages, that's kind of what can kind of, usually for the most part with people, kind of set the stage for what's going to seem like the more important needs for you to actively seek out in your adult life too. Because it's like, basically, if you learn that one of those needs you're going to get met a lot easier than another, especially, like, with your parents and stuff, you're probably going to kind of internalize that and become a person who is more preoccupied with seeking out that specific need over others. So, I guess to kind of try and look at myself in that lens, I definitely feel like one of the needs I prioritize for myself a lot is feeling like I can pursue the things that I want to without being limited, which has caused me some trouble also, and that's where definitely I can see some of my own avoidant tendencies come in too, because I don't like feeling like someone's going to stop me or get in the way of things that I want to pursue. But I've also learned a lot from other experiences in life, some of them more on the traumatic side than others, that have also kind of shaped me back the other way, of caring more about some of that social security. And, maybe my whole life isn't just about freedom from being imposed on, but also, like, if I'm always just trying to rid myself of imposition over seeking out something actively to build, then all I'm doing basically is forcing myself into whatever options are still available at the end of that, Like, I'm not really actually choosing anything. I'm just choosing not to choose, but a choice will be made for me whether I, because me trying to be free does not mean that all the options out there are going to like that route that I'm going. And so, this is getting maybe a little bit abstract, but I guess the gist of it is, people are weird creatures, and there is a lot of growth that everybody has to do basically all the time. And a lot of people get stuck and they don't grow that much for a while because they're so concerned with just meeting those needs that aren't being met. And that's something I try to be careful of a bit myself, is, you know, obviously, like, if I'm in a situation that sucks and I can only do what I can do, then I gotta focus on living through that situation, right? But I also don't want to be someone who gets stuck there forever. So I try to figure out ways that I can do something to change things if I feel like I'm in a too stagnant of a spot. But it's hard, man. Lots of stuff is tricky. And wanting to be close to people is definitely a part of that. I definitely have also recognized that I think, weirdly, I'm more avoidant in friendship dynamics than, like, relationships. Like, it's weird, like, not even, like, totally, because obviously, like, I don't really seek out relationships unless they fit, like, a lot of these things that I'm looking for, too. But, so it's, like, it's avoidant until you meet enough check boxes, and then at that point, then it's, like, almost all or nothing, and I honestly get pretty anxious at that point, because I'm like, holy shit, like, you're not actually gonna like me whenever you see I'm not just, like, this cool dude, like, front that I put on all the time, usually for other people, you know? Like, that's the thing, especially on the friend thing, like, I am really bad at being genuinely vulnerable with people now. And some experiences I went through definitely partially shaped that. I'm already over my 10 minutes again, but I'll try and at least hard limit 15. But we're going to try and keep it closer to 10. But long story short, it's easy to be scared of vulnerability, especially because just, like, so many people don't get things that, like, I would want to be honest about, and it just feels like I'm only setting myself up for disappointment if I open up too much. Like, I'm just going to drive people away, and I won't even have, like, people to just, like, you know, do game nights with, or just, like, hang out every once in a while, because, you know, that's at least a nice thing to have, even if I can't have people who really know me and get me on that deep of a level. I still have one really close friend who I really have been able to kind of go through a lot with and communicate with. But the average person is just, like, I guess I try and put people on too high of standards before I let very much in at all. And that's been one of the things that I've made an active goal to try and do better on, is that I do want to try and find more of that middle ground and be less black and white on just whether someone is totally or not at all allowed to know the things that I'm more anxious and worried about. And maybe that'll make me less anxious to those people whenever they do pass that threshold, because that's kind of what it is. It's kind of an all or nothing. Either you're just kept far at a distance and I don't let you see that part of me much at all, or, like, you get in and then I'm kind of trying to show you everything, and so I'm also kind of freaking out because, like, I don't really get much practice with that because I don't show most people most things. So then whenever someone does get in and I do want to show those things, like, I'm trying to show it, but it's also like, holy shit, this is kind of terrifying, because, like, at any moment something could go terribly wrong, and I could be wrong about how compatible we are as people, and suddenly this is another thing that I'm going to be hurting about and grieving about. But yeah, I'm well over time. Day 2, everybody.